The saying goes that you are the average of the 5 people that you hang around with the most. Therefore, it's really important to surround yourself with good, wholesome people. And it's imperative that you seek them out and you find them in some way, shape, form or other. And when you find them, then you make them part of your friend circle, you make them part of your friend group. We don't have choices over family, we don't have choices over friends. There's an expression, friends are the family you choose. Family's there, you can't get away from them. You can try being upbeat and positive with them, but you can't. At the end of the day, if they're negative, they're negative. That's just a given. You have to accept that and manage that within yourself. Perhaps your work colleagues are very similar. However, there are the people around you, certainly the friend circles, etc. You do have that choice. You can pick how you kind of approach and create those friend circles. And it's incredibly important that they are healthy. But it goes beyond just people. I know the expression is you are the average of the 5 people you hang around with the most. But you might find that books, the TV, cinema shows, etc. also end up influencing us to a huge extent. So it's not just the people you hang around with, but also the other things that you do. So rather than picking books that are negative or books that are not going to get you anywhere, perhaps now and then, you'd have to change everything overnight, but maybe pick books that are a little bit more, books that will open your mind a little bit more, books that will challenge you a little bit more in terms of your ways of thinking or your belief systems, books that will push you out your comfort zones when you read them, and maybe try and do some of the things that they suggest around self-development, self-growth, relationships, all sorts of things. Books have a profound influence. But also, you think about it, when you, in your R&R time, the time that you're relaxing, rest and relaxation time, what do you tend to do the most? Do you tend to hang around with people a lot? Some people do. Maybe you tend to watch a lot of TV. That's fine, there's nothing wrong with that necessarily. But maybe start watching programs that again are going to inspire you a bit more, that are going to be a little bit, that will push you, open your comfort zones, open up your ways of thinking a little bit more. So it's not just the average, the 5 people that you hang around with the most that end up influencing you, but all things. In fact, ultimately, it's anything that you're taking through your sense doors. It's something you see, something you smell, something you taste, something you hear, or something you touch, with your fingers. All of these things actually end up influencing us. So we have a conscious choice to pick things that are better for us, perhaps, or things that will grow us a little bit more. Now, what you'll tend to find is as your friend circle or as your reading materials or things like that start to change, you start to gain a sense of self-confidence. Because you're not being so negative or you're not being so glib, you start being not necessarily positive, but more optimistic about life. You start seeing things a little bit more real. And as the optimism penetrates you, your sense of confidence increases, your sense of self-worth increases. And that is an incredibly powerful thing, because as your sense of self-worth increases, as your sense of confidence increases, the way you start seeing things, the way you start approaching, let's say, problems changes. Whereas before perhaps you saw it as a problem, let's say a life scenario was a problem, it starts to change. It stops being a problem and it ends up being a challenge. Now I know, okay, it's a play on words. However, what I'm trying to get across is that your approach to these things changes, because you start surrounding yourself with such upbeat, positive things. So what you start finding is when you're faced with these challenge or life scenario, because of the things you're reading, maybe because of the people you hang around with, rather than agreeing with you, let's say a person might just agree with you, yeah, it's really sad, yeah, it's really difficult, so you were made redundant, yeah, that's really tough, etc., etc. Someone who is a little bit more upbeat or might be a bit more positive might actually give you a different way or a spin on how to look at things. And they might turn around and say, okay, you're made redundant, but my God, there are so many other job opportunities out there. Or have you thought about retraining in a different skill? Or, things that are just different. And what that does to you is you stop feeling depressed, perhaps, you stop feeling down, perhaps, but you start looking at these things in a different way. You start pushing your things. And books are the same, the books end up influencing us in such a big way. And if you start looking at these things if you start looking at life scenarios in a different way, it's only better for us. And as your sense of your ways, your approach to things grows and becomes better, and you become more optimistic, your sense of self-confidence grows. Your approach grows. You know, the way you carry yourself, the way you tackle problems, they become just a lot better.